PR Connections Radio presents.
Well, hello, everyone that is paying attention and tuning in to Evelyn's Roundtable. This has been a rough few days, everybody, and everybody adjusting and getting it all together and come to conclusions. And the bottom line is we're going to have to work together, everybody. And but I want to say thank you and introduce a very special guest that we're having on here tonight, because Guy has been a big inspiration and also someone that I can call and whine to in the mornings when I'm going through it. He listens to me and he tells me the right thing, right? You know, sometimes we don't want to hear the right thing, right? We just want to hear somebody say, yeah. But Guy is not that person. If you want to call him to ask him any questions, Guy is.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Because Mr. Guy Dawson over here is not going to do that. He's going to give it to you right. He's going to give it to you real. And like I always say, you might not like what's getting ready to come out my mouth, but I'm gonna tell it to you like it is, right? So, Guy, can you please just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much, Evelyn. And wow, now that you have pretty much told me off as being a straight shooter, I will accept that as a compliment, because I just, you know, Evelyn, it's all out of love, right? If I'm not a straight shooter with you, it's because I don't necessarily have that type of feeling, right? So with people who I know are solid, like Evelyn, and have big hearts, and who I can see the ambition, I can see the all the gifts that people like Evelyn have. You know, yeah, sometimes people you might not like what I say to you, and it may not even be right what I say to you, right? But it's always meant, and I know you know this, it's meant because you're special, and I believe in you. And I'm so grateful for you to be my friend. And Evelyn, we go, you know, back quite a bit. And we're doing a lot of things together. And
yes,
this network is so much better since you've, you know, come over here and started doing your podcast. You're just such a great addition. And yeah, Evelyn she's just good people. For those of you out there who know her, who watch this show regularly, I think you get a sense of, you know, no matter how the tone might be, because she's got a lot of that same straightforwardness that I have. And I think that's one of the reasons why we get along, because she'll be that way with me, right? But there's always there's a big heart behind that. And I think that Evelyn, that's what allows us in a way to get away with some of the things that we do, right? The way that we approach some things, and maybe the way that we talk to, if people didn't know that we really cared, right, we couldn't get away with some of the things that we do.
I agree with you. It's I mean, I don't know how else to be, though. You know what I mean? I was raised by a 5 foot, literally 5 foot Black woman from Sardis, Mississippi, and born in 1905, right? So that kind of tells you what was going on with her, and having to hear the slave stories and all of that, and to be only 5 foot tall though too, you know, and so a lot of strong Black women in my family that I was raised around, and I don't know. I don't know how to, you know, but it's like you said though, Guy, it's out of love though, and who really, I mean, you really don't have time for that, do you? Do you have time for the go around the tree and up the bush? I mean, I don't know. I just think when you're really doing something serious like this podcast that you kept telling me I should do, and I kept saying no. I'm telling you, y'all, I turned him down. I was like, I don't do a podcast. Wait a minute. Then I was like, well, how do you do the podcast? Because I really didn't even know that either, you know? And he's like, no, you just, and I was like, what? And I kept saying, no. And then I'm going to tell you, one of these organizations out here kind of had me go there. y'all. And I called Guy back up, and I said, it's time to talk about what's going on in Nevada. And it's time to talk about really what's going on with unions and non-unions and the civics part of everything, right? And to be upfront, because we upfront on here. Everybody knows that. That's why it's called.
Watched it. I've watched some of the episodes. Boy.
Because we got to go there, right? Matter of fact, I shouldn't even have Nevada Women Trades up here behind me. I probably shouldn't even have that up there. Now that I'm thinking about it. Hey, wait a minute, y'all. Maybe we will do that.
Everybody knows what you're about, Evelyn.
I know. But see, now I can really be good now, right? There's nothing there. Nothing.
Removing your
Hey.
brand.
Hey.
Removing that brand and
Exactly.
really be you, huh? Yeah.
But this I wanted it to be real, you know, in real conversations with real people about things that us as women, us as Black women, us as Black veteran women, what we're going through here in this state. And I'm telling you, Guy, because there's like two subjects I kind of want to hit on. And democracy. What does democracy mean to you? You know, and not what it means to you, but how do you feel at this moment about democracy?
Yeah, democracy is a very complex topic, Evelyn, and it means different things to different people, right? So, I mean, when I reflect back on being raised in the educational system in America and what we were taught in the history books, right? Starting from, first grade all the way up through 12th grade, the way that we are educated in this country about what democracy represents, what these founding fathers back in the 1700s, right, who came over to America looking for a better way of life. And of course, with our people, where, we're the only people that live in this country other than the Native Americans who aren't immigrants, right? So our specific experience is unique. And so people talk about immigration, and I mean, immigration is part of what made America what it was. The difference when you're talking about democracy, for our people in particular, for Black people, is we were never a part of the democracy kind of from the very beginning, just because of the circumstances that we were brought to this country. And I think that that's one of the ongoing problems that this country has to deal with our people specifically, just that we never got the chance to even make a choice of whether we were going to be a part of this democracy or not. People who come from other countries, the democracy existed after these founding fathers got everything into place. They had the choice of whether they wanted to come and be a part of this, where we never even really had that choice. And so I guess, being a Black person in America, having been raised here, the way I look at democracy can be different than the way that other people view it, just based on our history as a people in America.
Wow. Something really came to mind when you said that. When you broke it down like that, wow. That's a wow. I was going to say something else, but we trying to be really good on here. But that's a wow. Because one of the things what made me come to thought is our other immigrants come over here with their own language. Mm-hmm. And you're not being told, hey, you can't do that. You can't talk like that. It's actually being like, now we got banks, right? We got banks that are Hispanic. You go into places, they speak a couple different two languages, English or Spanish, but even other schools, or even now lawyers got 5 different languages, right? But when Africans that were taken from Africa, our ancestors that came over here, we were denied that but English, right? I mean, if you want, you're going there, right? That's where you going. That we came here, but other immigrants coming here with their language, so they're bringing. And I'm like, wow, I could have learned probably 5 different African languages by now, I probably would know. I mean, that's what made me think when you're talking about this, but the other part is, because you said what it means to different people and that, but have you seen democracy though? Are you seeing it? How do you feel about, are you seeing democracy though? Because looking at it and talking about it, but are you seeing it?
Yeah, I think the democracy that I've experienced in this country, Evelyn, throughout my lifetime is a lot different than what I learned in those history books. Because in the history books, they don't teach you about how much money has an influence on democracy, right? I mean, they don't talk very much about that. Just think back, right? The history courses that you took, and they don't talk about the influence of money and how money, for instance, we just look at something like this presidential campaign, right? It's the day after the election, and we have a brand new president-elect, and we have the person that ran against him, Kamala Harris, raised $1 billion in like 90 days.
Yes.
So when you're looking at how democracy really takes shape, follow the money. Right. And that's what they don't teach you in the history books, or they didn't teach me. I didn't learn that, you know what? Democracy's got a lot to do with how much money you have. Right. In terms of fairness, in terms of you got the principles that these founding fathers created when they created the Constitution, which, by the way, I think is a wonderful document, the Constitution. I'm a big believer in the theory of it, but the money makes everything so much different, right? Just because of justice and fairness amongst people is so tied to finance and how much money your ability to be able to access capital has so much influence over whether you truly are able to participate in the democratic process. And I mean, going to the polls and voting is a part of the democratic process. Don't get me wrong. That's something that a lot of people have worked very hard for, especially, again, Black people, women, work very hard for the right to even be able to go and cast that vote, by the way. So I don't want to diminish the power of you being able to go to the ballot box and actually have your say in the election. I think that that's something that is an expression of democracy. But when it comes to the real systems in this country and the way that it's run, follow the money. Democracy is about money. That's just what I've discovered over. It's just my perspective on it.
No, but it's interesting, because isn't it interesting how you just said billions of dollars were raised, but yet we still have in this state homelessness, those that don't have a place to sleep, encampments. Even though sometimes homelessness is because they want to be homeless, but not everybody wants to be homeless. But it's interesting how the price of milk, the price of this. I mean, we can just really kind of start looking at that, right? Like, dang, you just raised over $1 billion, but yet people can't pay their rent. People don't eat. And even we can even talk about education for the kiddos, right? Like, sometimes those are the only meals some of these kids get is when they're in school. And that's
And she lost. She just been right. I don't mean to cut you off, Evelyn, but I wanted to just interject that really quickly, where you're talking about where $1 billion could go and how it could really impact people's lives. And again, I have nothing against Kamala Harris, the sister. I'm really, really not. I'm far from a hater of Kamala Harris. But the point that you just touched on is that she lost, and that $1 billion is gone. Where else could it go? Where could it have made more of a lasting impact? I really admired what you were. That's why I wanted to jump in really quickly. Is I admire where you were going with that. Where could that $1 billion have gone where it would have had more of a lasting impact?
I mean, wow, right? To make sure these kids can eat, right? To make sure they got shoes. What about and what's coming up now? We got Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, and you got some kids don't even know what a gift is. Some kids that won't even be able to have a Thanksgiving. You got veterans and veteran treatment court. Shout out to Justice Veteran Treatment Court and Henderson Veteran Treatment Court and North Las Vegas Treatment Court. But you got veterans and treatment courts and things in that should deserve some type of basket or something, and they're not even getting it. But organizations like yours and mine, we're donating to, but $10, $15 just for these veterans that graduate can have. It's just wow. Yeah, you brought up a very, very, very good point. And then I want to hit on leadership, because the forefathers, incredible for them to see this all unfold. Oh my gosh. Like they really seen it, right? They seen how they even put things in the Constitution and all of that to say, well, this might happen over here, so we got to do this over here. How the heck did they even know that far that all this stuff was happening? And even right now, it's kind of like, what happened? Because it feels to me like we're off that trail right now. We're not on that trail anymore. We're just, I don't know what is happening right now. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just, with human beings, Evelyn, people have agendas. And so I think America has gotten away in a lot of ways from the agenda that those forefathers had when they were designing this. Like you said, the vision that they have. I mean, again, a lot of them own slaves too, right? So I have some problems with a whole lot of them. But in terms of their vision of what they saw, what America could be, absolutely. But I don't think we're really following an agenda like the one that they mapped out when they created that Constitution. I really think that they had more of a democratic spirit than we do now, for sure. I think we've gotten really far off track. What the intentions were, what they really wanted this country to be about. I think we're just getting further and further and further off track as we go along. I mean, we could spend 2 or 3 hours here talking about all the different reasons why democracy has gotten so far off track in this country. It's more of democracy exists when I win. If I don't win, then there's not a democracy. So if my agenda is fulfilled, I feel that we're living in a fair democracy. If my agenda is not fulfilled, we're not living in a fair democracy. And I just don't think that that's what the forefathers, when they designed this, that they meant it to be. And again, like I was touched on earlier, Evelyn, is that Black people in this country, our forefathers, true forefathers, at least through lineage, didn't have a say in any of it.
No.
So, and again, that doesn't diminish at all from how powerful it is and what a great system it's been, right? And I mean, I'm proud to be an American, right? I don't agree with everything that we do in this country, but I pledge allegiance to the flag, right? That's just my perspective. Definitely don't agree with a whole lot of things that happen in this country, but in terms of the democracy and leadership, as you were talking about. And we were having this conversation not that long ago, Evelyn, where I was talking about the perspective of sometimes Black Americans when it comes to leadership and how that can be a lot. We can sometimes view leadership from a different perspective based on our history in America and what we have been allowed to do in leadership positions, or how we've been allowed to express ourselves as leaders. A lot of times it's been a lot different maybe than other cultures in this country. The way that we're allowed to express our points of view when it comes to leading things or being in charge of things, not being the dominant culture or race,
Right.
We have to have a different, and I still feel that way, right? Even to this day, the way that we approach leadership in this democracy, it's different. It's different, not worse, just different. The way that when we are put in positions of leadership, when we are set to task to supervise other people to get things done, the way that we're able to do that, or our approach to that, it's as unique as our experience is in this country.
Yes, yes, true that. And it's in leadership too, in rights, and because it wasn't that long ago when women can vote. I mean, it's not like it's been a long time. And really be truthful about it, Black men were able to vote before women, period, was able to vote. And that's not really talked about, but it is. That's what was going down in the
Not much sooner, but yeah, sooner.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And then people are like, what do you mean a Black man can vote over a woman? Yes, because it said men. It didn't say nothing about the race, was not in there. It was just talking about men, right? And so that's interesting in itself too. And being in the leadership though too, man, because that plays a part of it, right? Like, where do we all go from here? Yes, we have a new elected. We'll be in there here in what, next month? Well, a couple more months, anyways, and it's going to be, how is everybody around us going to act, right, with this? Because that leadership is going to kind of like trickle down to the other leaderships, right? Are we all that are been grassroots and in the ground, right here in the trenches, are we can continue our roles, or are we going to step back and just be like, okay, whatever, and give up?
Yeah, I think the people that are true to it, and you are certainly an example of that, Evelyn. If ever there was someone who was an example of somebody who's true to the grassroots, it's you. And there's a lot of people out there like you. And, you were touching on the leadership thing a second ago, and how we could maybe tie it into this election that we just had, right? Where we had this we've had our second major female candidate. I know Shirley Chisholm was the first African-American woman, right, to ever actually run for president. But I mean, on a grand scale, as the representative of a political party, one of the two major political parties, we've now had two women that have tried this, and neither one of them have been able to climb that mountain. And so in terms of leadership, the sexism, I think, is something that is not addressed nearly as much as it really should be addressed. I got a philosophy when it comes to leadership, Evelyn, I've had lots of opportunities to lead both men and women. And I really don't think anyone is better than the other. And I say that, right? And people say to me a lot of times, what do you mean? I have women who tell me women are better leaders than men, right? I have men who tell me men are better leaders than women. And I'm just sharing from my experience. I started leadership when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So I've been in leadership roles for pretty much my entire life. And I see strengths in both genders when it comes to leadership. But it can be, because it's different, don't mean that it's better or worse. It's just different. I've seen some unbelievably talented women leaders who could run circles around men. I've worked with them. I've been on teams with them. Could absolutely run circles around. And I've seen some horrible female leaders who don't deserve the position that they're in. And the same thing can be said on the other side, right? I've seen some really talented male leaders who deserve everything that they've gotten through their leadership because they're that good. And a woman, a sixth grade woman could outdo, right? And there's sixth grade women who got more leadership in their pinky than some grown men that I've met in my lifetime.
Isn't that something? That's interesting that you say that, because I started we're in our 3rd week of our 6-week pipeline program. So I'm very excited about that, everyone. And so we've started off with 8 women applied. 5 got into the program, and we just lost one. Yes, today, actually. And so now we have 4 in there, and we had a guy on there from Canada today that was talking to the ladies, and it was interesting because I had to say to the ladies, because of the guy from, which is good, and shout out to Dan Kitchen and all that in Canada that's helping little girls and all that, and young ladies with what he's doing there and there. But I mentioned about having male allies, and the ladies kind of, you can tell, right, the look on because we're all on Zoom, but it's like, we have to have male allies. We cannot do this without male allies. We just can't. And that's just how I feel about it. And a lot of males and a lot of women are surprised when I say that, but it's a true fact, right? We got to bring your perspective into this. We can't just, because like I said at the beginning of this, you're the one that was like, hey, you should do this podcast. I think you'll be good. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not good at that. I couldn't do this. I couldn't, but you seen something in me that was like, no, oh no, you be able to do this. And, and so I agree with you. It's both. And we got to kind of walk the line, right? And figure it out, and who is, because just because you're a female doesn't mean you're good to come over here and be on my team. That doesn't mean that. Right. So I really, really agree with you. But I want to hit back on this leadership again, because I think come January, it's time to hit we already in the dirt. We just gonna have to dig a little bit bigger hole. That's all. We're just gonna have to, we're gonna have to get into that what they call that stuff? Caliche that's down there in Nevada. Nevada got caliche, y'all. To where
no doubt.
You gotta get to you gotta go get the chainsaw and everything else and get in there to get that caliche out of here. But,
jackhammers, yeah. When I was in the laborers union, boy, I used to get on that jackhammer, and that's kind of like what we're gonna be looking like, huh?
It is, because it take you 10 hours, and you be like, dang,
trying to get through that caliche, boy.
You've been out here for 10 hours and you broke an inch in there, and you like, wow. And you got pieces of rock smacking you in the face and everything and all that kind of stuff. But I believe we really are going to have to stay in this, and you're raised in military family. I'm part of the military. My family's military. We don't do that. We just don't do that. I don't think we even know how to do that, to be really honest with you, how to go the other way. But what I'm saying is, come January, oh no. We're gonna have to push even harder. And this is what makes me bring up A. Philip Randolph Institute, which is something else that Guy brought me acquaintance to, and to really listen to what he was talking about. And when I can't say APRI, because a lot of people don't know what you're talking about when you say it that way. But when you say A. Philip Randolph, then it's kind of but then it kind of like, well, wait a minute, I heard that name before. So, Guy, can you please, as the president of A. Philip Randolph Institute, Guy Dawson, who brought me into that too, and I was kicking and fighting with that too, but he brought me too.
I like the kickers and the fighters. You see what I'm saying? Male or female, right? Those are leaders. The kickers and the fighters are the leaders. So yes. So all right, what's A. Philip Randolph Institute all about, Evelyn? So for those of you out there who don't know, A. Philip Randolph was a really instrumental person in the integration of labor unions back in the 30s and the 40s. He single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, but he definitely was the pioneer in the development of the first ever black trade union in America, Pullman car porters. Mm-hmm. And so that was a huge accomplishment. Labor unions up to that point were pretty much all segregated. And through his ambition and drive and he was able to establish a union composed of Pullman porters that were all African American. And then A. Philip Randolph got involved in the Civil Rights Union on so many levels beyond that. He was really instrumental in the March on Washington.
Yes, MLK. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. Like, man. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know behind the scenes how instrumental he was in making that happen. And again, Martin Luther King gets a lot of credit for it, as he should, because of his huge role in it. I mean, he was the face of the civil rights movement in the 60s. But there were a lot of people behind the scenes, such as A. Philip Randolph, who had a lot to do with negotiating, even making that a reality. And they had planned an earlier one. When I think I had told you, Evelyn, I watched a documentary recently about A. Philip Randolph. When I watched this documentary, there was actually a March on Washington planned. I want to say, I don't want to misquote it. I want to say it was in the 50s sometime. And they ended up calling it off. And there was a lot of reasons why they decided that they would call it off. Anyway, he is, just a monumental figure in the AFL-CIO, which is the governing body of labor unions here in the United States. And then in 1968, he established the A. Philip Randolph Institute, which is the organization that Evelyn and I are a part of. The national organization is headquartered in Washington, D.C., and it is an organization that is all about the empowerment of the labor movement, and particularly Black unionism, serving the interests of the Black community when it comes to becoming a part of the labor movement in this country. And so, I reached out to Evelyn about it. I was introduced to A. Philip Randolph Institute. I'm a member of IATSE, which is the stagehands union, international stagehands union. And a good friend of mine who passed away a couple of years named B.J. Thomas founded A. Philip Randolph Institute in Las Vegas in the early 2000s. And he passed away, I want to say it was 2022, maybe 2021. But at that time, he was getting older, and he asked me, he says, Guy, I want you to promise me that you're going to keep this going. And so I reached out to the people that I felt would get it. So that's a big part of leadership too, Evelyn. It's making sure that you have to be able to judge and have the right talent around you in order to make things happen, right? You got to know how to reach out to the people. And so I had just always known Evelyn as a go-getter. And there's a man named James Bryant. Shout out to James Bryant out there in San Francisco, California. He's the regional director for the Southwest region of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. And I had met him through BJ. And he said, Guy, we want to get this chapter back up and running. COVID and a few other factors that caused us to have to shut it down for a while. And I reached out to James and I said, hey, I got a good friend. I think she'd do a great job. And so she was the first person that I reached out to when it was time to reorganize this. And like you said, like she was saying, she was interested in it, but she, your experiences, right, Evelyn, have a lot to do with how receptive you are to things. We all have flashbacks.
Right.
But the thing that I really appreciated about you, Evelyn, is you're so unselfish. You were willing to go. You had issues with things that you knew could possibly be in conflict with this.
Yes. And
you were very open about talking about it, but you didn't allow that to stop you from doing the mission, pursuing the mission. So when you were talking a few minutes ago about being in the military, and us here in 2025, what we need to do when we get started, you keep pursuing the mission. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, right? The change in the landscape, you may change your strategy, right? You got to do that sometimes, but you don't change the mission. The mission is the mission. There's a reason that you're in the mission. And so we are involved in this mission of again, promoting overall unionism, which is huge. And then again, our affiliation with the AFL-CIO is powerful, but there's also a huge community aspect of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, which is just empowering and bettering the lives of people, specifically Black people, but really all people who want a better life. And so it's a heavy burden or a heavy task that has been given to us. We got our board back up and running. What was that? April of this year?
Something like that.
March or April of this year, Evelyn.
Yeah.
And so we are a constituency group, what's called a constituency group with the AFL-CIO. And we're just building a powerful organization that we feel is going to have a lot of impact, specifically on the lives of Black people in the unions. But, again, it's all about the overall promotion of living a better life or promoting unionism as a source of living a better life, being a part of a trade union, as both of us being members of trade unions.
Yes. And it's really important that we have something like this, APRI, to help Blacks get into the unions. We're not saying we can't be your lawyer. We don't do any of those things, but we do make sure there is inclusiveness going on, and we can directly ask about inclusiveness going on in these unions as far as Black people being in there. And as you put it to me, I'm already doing, that to a certain level anyways, of promoting women to get into unions and that. But now here we just started hey, everybody, we started this from the ground up, y'all. It wasn't like it was handed at us and everything was this. No, we actually, me, Guy, and Lionel actually talked, and put this together, which all praises go to the man upstairs, or I don't care how you want to say it, but this is really big, everybody. And for us to be on here right now and talking about democracy, and even if you want to come and join APRI and you feel that, and it's for union, if you're part of the union, if you're not, it's not about that. It's about bringing awareness, right, to making sure, if you do want to get in the union, that there's information that we can give you and all of that. And so you can you want to give them that information. I know there's a membership.
Oh, right. So if you wanted to learn more about the A. Philip Randolph Institute Las Vegas, you can send an email either to me, president@aprilasvegas.org, or membership@aprilasvegas.org. And we'll get back to you and give you more details. As Evelyn had mentioned, you do not have to be a member of a union to be a member of A. Philip Randolph Institute. There is a huge community engagement element that's attached to the union aspect of our organization. And we are actively seeking leaders and people within the community who would like to be a part of this organization. We're going to create something special here in Las Vegas, and we want you to be a part of it. So many lives, Evelyn, I think are really going to be affected, as you had talked about before, through our commitment to pursuing this mission all the way. We're all in on it.
Oh, yes. And membership is
$25 per year. Yep, just a mere $25 per year.
Per year, y'all.
Part of this organization that has a rich heritage. And I had the chance over the summer to go to my first complete national convention in Florida. And it really gave me a bigger perspective of what A. Philip Randolph meant to this country, to Black people specifically, but to this country in general, and that there are so many opportunities beyond. Again, of course, we want you to become a union member because there's just so many benefits to being a member of a trade union. And so definitely we're constantly promoting union advocacy as always on the forefront. But again, on the community side, we have are going to be developing programs that are going to have a huge impact on the community in terms of, well, you know what? I don't want to get too much into that. I want you to reach out to us, and I will give you more information about why being a member of APRI is something that could really be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I think it is. If not anything, you got support. And if you got some questions, like I said, we're not lawyers. We don't go in there with you if you're getting laid off or somebody yelled at you, but we can direct you to the right person, the right organization that you can talk. We even, we only just started this, like he said, in February, but we got t-shirts, y'all, though. We got some nice
t-shirts. If you want to buy $25.
Yeah, $25 for a t-shirt also. And we got a really nice board and all that, and we actually want some volunteers, maybe some other committees that you might want to do if you got some extra time. And we also are talking about having something for next year too, right? In what are we doing that in April?
So we have a huge event that we are going to be putting together in April of 2025. It's going to be A. Philip Randolph's birthday celebration. And so it's going to be the first event that we've had here in Las Vegas. And I really feel it's sort of a coming out party, right, Evelyn? To let the community know that we're here, that we are here to help and support and to carry out the mission of A. Philip Randolph Institute. That really the mission of A. Philip Randolph Institute was practiced by millions and millions of people yesterday, and that is exercising your right to vote. So that's a really, really big part of the overall mission that we carry out through the work that we do. And voter advocacy is one of the biggest missions. But anyway, through this particular event that we are going to be hosting, we're going to teach the community more about what A. Philip Randolph meant to society, to America in particular, to the trade unions. And we are going to, of course, it'll be a huge on the educational side, but then, of course, you have the opportunity to meet a lot of community leaders, union leaders, politicians, other leaders within the community are going to be invited to participate in this event. And we're working on developing something that we feel is really going to be special to honor B.J. Thomas, who, again, is the founder of APRI Las Vegas. We're going to develop an award that we're going to give to someone in the community who has been exemplary in their service in some way. And we're going to hand out one of those awards in April. We don't have an exact date for when we're going to do it yet, but we'll be doing updates. And so, again, if you want more information about anything, please reach out to me, president at APRILasVegas.org.
Yes, this is really big right here to have organization like APRI and to be a constituency group under the umbrella of AFL-CIO, y'all, which is a big support system for all of those and there's over 15 trade unions, over 15 that you can get involved in too. So it's not just under AFL. You can see if you go on their website, it has all the information on there too. But as far as leadership too, at this point, I think also it's hard too, right? Because at this moment, at this time right now, like you said, not everyone that's leadership is going to stand up, right? Some are going to falter because of what's been going on or what's going to happen and on both sides. And it is important to vote, but I just think this leadership is going to be questioned on all sides, on everywhere, right? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think leadership in a lot of ways it's a double-edged sword, but it's a sword, right? I mean, when you look at it, leadership there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being a leader, right? I mean, a true leader who is able to get people to come along on the mission, because that's really what a leader is, Evelyn. It's someone who's got a vision, or a group of people maybe who have a vision, and they select a one leader, that one person generally, not that you don't have others, our board is all leaders, right? So I'm the president of the board, but I am not the leader. I'm just the president of the board. Every member of the board of A. Philip Randolph Institute is a leader too, but we've all got a common mission. The mission is the most important thing, right? And the buy-in that you have to get from the people who you're bringing along on the mission with you. I guess like in the military, right? Evelyn, you go to battle. If the troops don't believe in the leader, you're leading them to certain death.
Correct.
And so we're not in it. It's not as much of a life and death situation for us in the things that we do. Obviously, war is life and death, right? But at the same time, as a leader, you're bringing people along on something that can impact them. And if you don't lead them correctly, you can cause people a lot of problems through the way that you lead them.
Of course.
So again, there's not a lot of competition. This is another thing that I've discovered in the leadership space, Evelyn. There's not a lot of competition out there when it comes to becoming a great.
A good way to look at it. You trying to make us all feel better?
There's just not, right? Because of that, the level of commitment that you have to make to be a leader, right? And having everybody looking at you, right? Looking at you for the answers. It's all, there's just not a lot of people out there who necessarily want to do that. So if you want to be a great leader, I mean, I could tell this, anybody out there that's watching this video, right? I'm telling you, you're not going to have to worry about competition if you want to become a great leader, because there's just not that many people in my experience who are really dedicated to the growth too, right, Evelyn? It's a never-ending growth process.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And one thing you get started and, oh, wait a minute, that opened the door for this. And you're like, oh, I don't want to go down that door. I don't want to open it up, because you already know, like, wait a minute, I got to stick to. And yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's and leadership is not easy, and it comes with daggers. I got a few of them back there, and it comes
who don't?
And scrape marks and scratches and all that, and I tell the ladies too that right now that's in my class, I said, hey, we just gotta hold hands and jump off the cliff. And they look at me, jump off the cliff? I'm like, yeah, we gotta jump off the cliff. And they're like, but wait a minute. And then you see the looks on their faces, right? But what was interesting is we did a carpenter. We went to the we done been to 669 and toured their facility. We just did the carpenters yesterday. We do the operators and sheet metal and IBW and 872 and 525 and all that. But it's interesting. The ladies said yesterday at the carpenters, we were there, and one of the ladies said, yep, I feel like I'm jumping off the cliff. And I was like, high five, right? Because that's what we're scared of. Because I'm like, yeah, you're free falling. Yes, you are. You're free falling for real. And you're gonna go boink, and you're gonna go, you're gonna but you know what? You're gonna land on your feet. I don't know how long it's gonna take you to land on your feet. Now, don't get me all whatever with that. But yeah, you're gonna land on your feet. You have to land on your feet. But just that initial and how many times you smacking your head, right? On the way down, right? Bang, boom, boom. You feel like them boinker balls down there.
And they trust you. That's why they're going on the mission with you.
Yeah.
Trust is a big part when it comes to leadership. Trust.
But and you're right, though. You in being honest and saying, this is what's going to happen to you. But you know what? I'm going to be there the whole way with you. I'm going to boink and bounce and boop and everything too, and it even has to talk about, getting into these apprenticeships and all the work that all my partners and PR connections and other partners that's helping me. It's like you need those partners too, right? You need all these people to help with this mission, because one thing I've learned, I can't do this by myself. And I was told by a really good friend that that told me, he said, Evelyn, when you realize that this nonprofit is not yours, it's the people's, then you're going to see it from a whole different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh. But it's true, though. It's true. I don't know how many people get in nonprofits think they making money, because that's not where no. That's the first thing people say to me. Oh, I got nonprofit in. And how do I get grants? I'm like, how long you been a nonprofit? I just did it the first year. I said, oh, please, you got to learn on that one, because a lot of places like the stadium, you had to own your nonprofit at least two to 3 years before you can even. They say, hey, and they looking at you, right? I mean, it's not. No. I mean, I'm not saying later on down the road, right? You can, contracts and things like that, but you have to be in this for the right reason. And you got to pay your dues. There's dues to be paid, right? To run a nonprofit organization or to run a business, you have to be willing to pay your dues. And that's a mindset to me, Evelyn. Oh, yeah. And that's what came up today with Dan. And he's, because I asked him about that, how long were you doing? He said, it's been a long 5-6 years. I said, yep, that sounds familiar over here, because that's where I'm at. I just made 6 years and it's been woo, but we're both still here, right? Me and the guy in Canada, we made it through COVID. That should be leadership right there to begin with. To go through COVID and still own your business, and knowing that you have to think, I call it outside the box right now, because it's like outside the box that we're doing right now as far as thinking, right? But it takes a lot, everybody. And we done about ran out of time. But Guy, I really, really hope that you come back and you sit down with us. And then plus we need to get an update here, when we get ready to do this big push out here for APRI, y'all. And please come and join APRI, y'all. Please just come and see what we're doing. We just got started, but it is about inclusiveness, what we're doing, everybody. And I appreciate Guy again for sometimes it takes somebody else to see something in you, and you ignore it because you think, is it something with that, right? Is there something? But no, people are actually seeing things. People are actually watching what you're doing out here. Yeah, you seize the opportunity. And you, again, being a part of prconnectionsradio.com, Evelyn, the shows that you're providing and the value that you're providing for this network, we appreciate you just as much as you appreciate us, because this is what allows us to function as a growing streaming network. Is we need great shows with great content. I've really enjoyed the guests I've been seeing on your shows. It's all about a team, right? It all comes back down to leadership, right, Evelyn? Yeah. And being a part of a team and working together and you have that mindset. You have a team spirit. And that's one of the things that I really, amongst a lot of other things, that I really appreciate about you, Evelyn. And I just see nothing but great success with your organization. And again, thank you for sharing your talents over here at prconnectionsradio.com and helping us to develop this new media that we are creating here. A different way of approaching media, where we can have open discussions like this, like you and I just had, about things that may be unpopular. Some of the topics that we touched on tonight might not necessarily be all that popular with everyone, but free media, this is, again, that same Constitution, right? That First Amendment.
This is what that's what the First Amendment is about. Us being able to do something like this. This is why America is a great country. It's because we can do this, right? And I just wanted us to continue to be able to do it.
Yes, yes. So we're going to close out, everybody. And I want to thank everybody for watching and being in tune with us. And Evelyn's Roundtable will be back in another 2 weeks. We're always here every first and third Wednesday. You can catch me at Evelyn at nevadawit.org. And you go on our website at www.nevada spelled out, WIT.org. And Guy, can you please give us a closing on any websites, any emails that you think everybody want to go on before we close out here?
Well, of course, here we are at this, our network, prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. If you'd like to go over there to watch, we've got about 15 shows on this network. We are a blossoming media platform. There's also a lot of great text now that we have on that site as well. We got articles, a lot of great things to come in 2025. Please visit our website, prconnectionsradio.com. You can watch archives of Evelyn's Roundtable there, amongst all the other shows. We have a real diversity of shows on this network and perspectives and ideas. And we're the voice of new media, which means we're the voice of the First Amendment, right? So please go over and check out our shows. And again, thank you so much for having me as a guest, Evelyn. Looking forward to coming back. We'll get into some more trouble again sometime soon.
Oh, yeah. It'll be soon, everybody. It'll be soon. Like I said, January, we hitting the ground running. And that's my closing out. I loved our mission statement, and to empower and empowering women to hold hands as we rise. And thank you for listening, everybody. It was a great show. Thank you.
I'm going to play your intro because I missed your intro. Here it goes.
All right.
PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. You hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise.
That was too powerful for me to let go through the whole podcast without getting it out there, Evelyn.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for coming on here and being on my show. And again, thank you, audience, for everybody paying attention.
All right. See y'all again soon.
Yes.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.